My name is Miriam Osei. I work in housing allocations for Manchester City Council. I build files on people for a living, and I know how much weight a document carries when someone official has signed it. I know the difference between an allegation and a finding. I know what it means to exist in a system as a set of documented claims rather than as a person. The ARIA system issued its preliminary custody recommendation last Thursday, and the Miriam Osei in the file is not someone I recognize. She is someone I would have flagged if she had come across my desk. ARIA, the Automated Relationship Impact Assessment, has been standard in English family courts since 2031. When couples dispute custody, both parties submit to a 90-day data collection window. Communications, location records, psychological profiles, incident reports. ARIA weighs everything and issues a preliminary recommendation before any human judge reviews the case. Most cases never reach a judge. Most cases, ARIA's recommendation stands. I left Daniel in January of last year. Eli was 6. I had been documenting things for 8 months before I left. The way you do when you know what's coming, when you know you'll need evidence. I had journals, I had photographs, I had dated notes on my phone, time-stamped, cross-referenced. I submitted everything to the ARIA portal on the first day of the data window. The voicemails, the emails, the message threads that went quiet in that particular way when he wanted me to know I had said the wrong thing. I submitted it all, and I felt, doing it, the particular quiet of a person who believes the truth is sufficient, who believes that if you are careful and honest and thorough, the record will speak for itself. The preliminary recommendation gave Daniel primary residency. It gave me contact every other weekend. I sat in my car in the council car park for 40 minutes before I could read it a second time. The screen kept lighting up from notifications, housing applications, a meeting request, and I kept turning it face down on the seat beside me. And then I read it the way I read housing files at work. Slowly, looking at the source of every claim. I wanted to understand where the document had come from. I wanted to find the error. There were 17 incidents logged against me, 17 entries under the heading Co-Parent Voluntary Disclosure. I printed the appendix at work, on the machine by the window in the open plan office, and I went through it with a pen, the way I annotate applications, marking the margin beside anything that needed checking. The first entry I recognized, not because it had happened, but because I had written about it. The 14th of April. ARIA had logged aggressive verbal communication directed at co-parent during scheduled handover. I hadn't been aggressive on the 14th of April. I had been angry. I had written about it that night in the journaling app I used, the one my therapist had recommended after I left, a way of keeping the feeling contained on the page where it couldn't do anything. I had written, I wanted to scream at him today. I wanted to tell him exactly what I thought of him, right there in the street, with Eli watching. I didn't, but I wanted to. I went through all 17 entries. 9 of them. 9 had journal entries from the same week. Not always the same day, but the same week. The things I had written about wanting to do. The fears I had set down on a screen at midnight because writing them out was how I kept from acting on them. The anger I had documented because my therapist said that was the healthy thing to do, that you had to give it somewhere to go, or it went somewhere you hadn't chosen. The journaling app. We had set it up together, in the 2nd year of the marriage. It was Daniel's suggestion, something about mindfulness, something he had read, a shared account, linked to his email address. I had kept using it after I left. The thought of changing the password had never arrived. There was so much to change when you leave. You change your address and your bank account and your emergency contact and your GP registration and the name on the school forms. The thought of the journaling app had never come. I called the ARIA helpline. I was on hold for 56 minutes. I sat in my car again, engine off, watching the pigeons on the car park wall. When I got through, the advisor told me the data collection window had closed, and the preliminary recommendation had been issued. She told me I could submit a formal challenge, but that challenges required new evidence not already in the record. She was patient. She explained it twice. I wrote down what she said on the back of the printed appendix, Between the margin notes I had already made, I told her the incidents had been taken from my private journal by the man I was trying to protect my son from. She said she understood how distressing that must be, and that she would note the concern on the account, and that the challenge form was available on the website. I found the portal logs after that. Reading the technical appendix more carefully, each of the 17 entries had been submitted through Daniel's ARIA login. The system treats both parties as equal reporters. That is what the system is designed to do. It does not distinguish between a report and a grievance, between a documented fear and a committed act. He had taken everything I had written in grief and fear and exhaustion, the private arguments I never had out loud, the ones I had kept off the street to protect my son, and translated them, carefully, into the language of the portal. Aggressive verbal communication, threatening behavior, failure to maintain stable emotional environment for child. I changed my passwords that evening, all of them. I went through every app on my phone, every shared account from the marriage, the streaming service, the recipe app, the cloud backup, the photo library we had shared from when Eli was born. Things I hadn't thought about in a year. I changed them methodically, in alphabetical order, because it was something I could finish. A thing with a beginning and an end. The formal challenge will take between 4 and 6 months to resolve. In the meantime, ARIA's recommendation gives Daniel primary residency. Ellie starts at his new primary school in September. These are the months when you need to be the parent who is in the house. When he wakes from a nightmare, when he loses a tooth, when he first asks a question that you don't know how to answer. Those months are happening now, while I am in the challenge process, while I am gathering new evidence, while I am waiting. I pick Ellie up on the second Saturday of each month. He comes out with his overnight bag, the blue one with the wheels, the one we bought for a holiday we never took, and climbs into the back seat and tells me about his week. Football, a film he has seen, something a friend said that made him laugh. He is 7 years old, and he talks the way 7-year-olds talk, quickly, about the thing that is in his head right now, the small, important things. He doesn't know what a preliminary recommendation is. He doesn't know what ARIA is. He just knows that things have changed, and that nobody has fully explained why, and that I drop him back on Sunday afternoon and drive away. I still journal. My solicitor has told me to stop, but I write in a new app now, a paid one, with end-to-end encryption and a security audit published on the developer's website that I read in full. I checked the terms of service 3 times before I wrote anything in it. The first entry was 2 sentences long. I wrote, "I don't know how to do this." Then I wrote, "I am going to keep doing it anyway." The last time I drove home from dropping Eli back at Daniel's, I passed the council offices where I work. I sat at the traffic lights and looked at the windows, the light on in the housing allocations office on the 2nd floor. Last year I built 47 housing files. I know what it means to have a file built on you, to exist, in an official system, as a set of documented claims, assembled by someone who has chosen which claims to include. I believed, when I submitted my evidence to ARIA, that good documentation was a form of protection. I understand now that it is only ever as trustworthy as the person who submitted it, and the system does not ask that question. The system is not designed to ask that question. The 17th incident, the one that tipped the recommendation past the threshold, is dated the 23rd of November. I was in the children's ward at Manchester Royal Infirmary that night. Eli was on a drip, and my phone was in a locker on the ground floor for 11 hours. I have the discharge summary. I have the car park receipt. I was not near that phone, but ARIA's terms of service do not permit amendments to the record once a recommendation has been issued. I thought the truth was the kind of thing that left a mark, that if you told it carefully enough, the record would speak for itself.